The New York Rangers got a new bench boss. And that's our lead thumbnail today on the Real Kyper at Noon show. Nick Kypreos here. Same cast and characters. Joe, Jordan, and our very own Doug Maclean. And why do we talk and speak of the New York Ranger bench boss? Well, there's a tie. PEI. Very own Gerard Gallant will be named soon officially the head coach of the New York Rangers, and that's where we'll start. But before we get into that and so much more, including the conference final, of course, we got to go to Jordan and ask him if he's doing well here. Over 100 degrees, Jordan, where you are in Colorado. Is that true?
Yeah, I mean, today we're expecting 101, I think. Yesterday was 100. It hasn't been below like 98 since last Thursday. It's been tough.
So we are talking about a heat wave pretty much in what central part of the U.S. because they haven't had, I'm hearing droughts going back to the 70s.
Yeah, I think from here to like Arizona, Vegas, I saw Palm Springs was like 115 degrees yesterday or over the weekend. So I don't know. I'm staying inside.
Well, hang in there, buddy.
Thanks,
hang
bro.
in there. Just do what Doug Maclean does and just chill in his cabin with air conditioning. Mac, are you okay? Because I know you've been under the weather the last little while as well. And all kidding aside, you doing okay?
I'm doing fabulous. The vertigo is nothing. I mean, it doesn't really affect you. You just can't walk or sit up or anything. It's just the room spins. But other than that, it's similar to how I am normally. I was just thinking when Jordan was saying it's a 101. Make sure he doesn't do what Rod Langway used to do to lose weight and put the garbage bags on under his equipment and go out for runs. Remember?
Do you remember that? Rod Langway would fire up the sauna, get it up to about 110, and take a spin bike in there, put on a garbage bag, and just sweat out 10, 12 pounds. Or should I say sweat out
10 or 12 pounds of beer.
The beer.
So, Jordan, don't do that when you go outside, even if you're desperate to lose a little water weight. Okay?
I'll have to consult my nutrition. I used to do that when I was playing Pee Wee football, though, because I was like 5'11" when I was 10 years old. So I always had to cut weight nonstop. And I don't know what kind of parenting it was for my dad to buy me one of those sauna suits to go run around. But in hindsight, maybe we should have, followed some reports.
When I was a kid, Errol Thompson, obviously a former star with the Leafs in the 70s, I used to see him running up McEwen Road in Summerside with a garbage bag on a week before training camp, trying to get the weight off.
So that was Rod Langway, of course, a legend with the Washington Capitals and Norris Trophy winner. But he had tricks, Mac. So when we were there, and it was a young group of myself, and it was Rob Murray and Ike Corvo and Stephen Leach, and Rod would give us some advice every once in a while, and if we went out and had one too many, the next day in practice we'd come in and you could smell the beer on us, and he'd say, listen, just take some Vicks vapor rub and just put it all over your chest and put it on your throat and you'll be fine. So we all did that, and that practice, we're all falling all over the place. It was the worst practice we could have possibly had. We're all still hungover. And there's Brian Murray calling us over. And he says, listen, okay, you guys are fucking awful out here. It's embarrassing. And you gotta stop listening to Rod. And then he says, because all you guys do is smell like a drunk with a cold. We're like busted, completely busted. But yeah. Good on Rod Langway for at least trying to help us beat so much of the coaching fraternity, and that's where we lead back our first conversation. And I know this hire in New York probably means a little bit more to you because of your friendship and your professional association with Gerard Gallant. Named soon to be officially named head coach of the New York Rangers, and just your overall thoughts, because you were the one that really took Gerard's coaching to a professional level. If I'm not mistaken, you brought him over in the early 2000s as an assistant coach, and then named him your head coach in 2004.
Yeah, it's funny. It's a long story. I met him when he was about 10 years of age in Summerside as a kid playing minor hockey, and then I had him as a student when I was teaching school. He was in my class. I'll never forget when I said to the kids one day, "What do you all want to do when you finish?" And I said, "There's another call I just got, but do not disturb." But anyway,
Yes, it
so
worked.
I said, "What do you guys all want to do when you finish school?" And I remember Gerard writing down that he wanted to be a postman, and he was going away the next year to play major junior hockey in Sherbrooke. He was 16 when he was in my class, and he said he was going to. I knew he was going to Sherbrooke major junior A the next year, so I called him in after we finished. The class ended. I said, "Gerard," I said, "I think if I was you, I'd forget about the postman and really work on the hockey if I was you." Then I end up coaching him in Detroit. We stayed in touch forever. I used to work my hockey school every summer. Then I had him as a player in Detroit. I'll never forget him elbowing me on the bench when Brian wouldn't put him out on the power play. And I was assistant coach, obviously from his hometown. He elbowed me in the stomach. He said, "Tell that dummy to put me out on the power play." I didn't bother mentioning that to Brian. So then we stayed up forever in touch. And then I brought him to Columbus as an assistant coach with Dave King in 2000, and then made him the head coach. And one of the biggest things that pisses me off in my career is, Mr. McConnell made me fire him. And it's funny how I remember telling Gerard that. I said, "Hey, I got no choice. I got to fire you." He told me, I get the call last night. And so I ended up firing him and hired Hitchcock. And I remember, and I said to her, "I can't tell anybody that I was told to fire you, and you can't tell anybody that I was told to fire you, but that's just the way it is." So you know what? It worked out. The guy goes back after that. He becomes a head coach in St. John, wins a Memorial Cup. Then he gets an assistant job in Montreal, the Islanders, and then Montreal, and then he gets the Florida job, and the rest is history. I mean, he's had a good career. So, I think he's been probably close to 6, 7, maybe going on 7 years now as a head coach. I know he was probably a year and a half in Columbus and 2.5 in Florida, 2.5 in Vegas. So this is a great opportunity for him.
What did you first see when you hired him as an assistant coach, and then ultimately as a head coach, Mac? What did you also see that told you, don't fire this guy, that hold on to him? And of course we know now that you were told to do it, but what was it? What were the characteristics of his coaching style or his overall philosophy that led you to believe that he could be a good coach?
No different than what he's showing in that, he was always a straight shooter. I mean, you remember back when he played in Detroit, he was an honest two-way guy. This is a guy, when he was with the Detroit Red Wings, people wonder why Steve Yzerman thinks so much of Gerard Gallant. Well, when Stevie and Gerard were together, Stevie came in as a 2 or 3 year younger guy, and he was having a little bit of fun, and Gerard took him under his wing and said, "Hey, you gotta settle down here." So he sort of gave him some great advice when Stevie Y was an 18, 19-year-old, and Gerard was probably 22 at the time. So they had a great friendship over the years, but he was just a guy in the team that people respected, and he had a heck of a career. I mean, it was a shortened career, and when I was coaching, we traded him to Tampa, or he left as an unrestricted free agent to finish his career in Tampa. But straight shooter, honest guy. His first year, yeah. By the way, also after he retired, he coached the Summerside Junior Capitals, which is a team I had originally coached in their inaugural first few years. And they won a Canadian championship, which in Tier 2 in the Royal Bank Cup. So he's had a real good run. But anyway, just the same things you see today. He's an honest guy. He's a straight shooter. We get together in the summer. He comes out and sits on my deck, and we bullshit and talk. And he's just a good guy and a good person, and it flows through to his players.
Can you see any of the current players elbowing Gerard and saying, "Put me on the fucking power play"?
We laugh about that.
you,
Now,
let me,
this is the other great story. I was doing the pregame or our warm up for practice one day, and we were starting, you know how you do the, fast between the blue lines and all this bullshit to get warmed up. And I noticed Gerard left the ice, and he went into the dressing room, and he come back out, and I skated over. I said, "What happened to you?" He said, "Mac," he said, "I can't skate backwards. When you do those back skating drills, I can't skate back. I never learned to skate backwards." And if there's ever some videos of watching him in a game where you get caught in the back check and you have to turn around and skate backwards, it's pretty funny. So
I don't think I
backwards skating
skated.
he didn't master.
I don't think I skated 15 seconds backwards my whole career. So
I know, it's funny,
not
eh?
he's not the only one.
But he said he broke a lace. Hey, I broke a lace. I got to go off, and it was because of the backwards skating drill. Yeah, we've had lots of fun over the years.
One of the things too, as well, is he was a good, hard, honest player, Mac, but he also at the time was a 30 or 40 goal scorer. Like, this guy had
Big
good
time.
runs. So I'm not saying he was a star by any stretch in the league, but he was a go-to guy on Detroit. And you wonder now that it's all about relationships with top players and working with your guys. And that's where Dave Quinn kind of lost, I think, the Rangers, is that there's no question that he lost his star players. Panarin, Zibanejad, whatever the case is. It was just a disconnect. He comes in now, and I'm not even sure if today's players would realize that this guy one time scored 35 or 40 goals, but there is a sense of command that this guy gets.
Well, I think, that the former players typically get it better than others. And then if they get mad at you, then they'll start saying, well, he wasn't that good a player. Stevie Y carried him. I mean, they always come up with something for a reason to rip you if they're not happy with you. But the thing with Gerard that they'll find is he's an honest guy. He tells it the way it is. There's no BS. And, he expects his players to play hard. And you know what? I think the biggest challenge of this job will be, obviously, New York is a tough market. There's unbelievable pressure to make the playoffs with this team next year from ownership. It's pretty obviously that's why JD was let go. You mentioned to me that it was taking too long for their liking. So, and this team, and I mentioned it to Gerard the other day. I said this team is not a playoff ready team right now. There's a lot of, they've got to be a lot grittier if they're going to play in the playoffs, and that'll be the interesting test as to how gritty, along with their talent. Nobody's denying they've got great talent. The challenge Gerard's going to have is getting them to play playoff style hockey, and that's going to be the biggest test for Drury too.
And that's
to find some players.
That's basically what we've witnessed, Mac, in the last month is Colorado, Toronto, Boston with their number one line, that if they don't find a way with the Rangers to get gritty, they'll just end up like the Leafs. Tons of talent and no foot soldiers to get it done this time of year. Gerard comes in and he looks at the lineup and he goes, that's not a Gerard team. I look at Vegas and I still feel like that's his team.
Yeah, that's his style that he wants to play, and they're going to have to adapt and play that way. And I said it to him the other night. I said, you'll bring that to the table for this organization, that they've got to play a lot harder if they're going to have success. First of all, in the Metropolitan, it's not easy to make the playoffs when you look at the group that are in there. Number one, making the playoffs is critical, and that's not going to be easy. I mean, we don't know how much Pittsburgh will drop. We don't know how much Washington will drop. We know the Islanders are going to be good again, and that Carolina is going to be good again, and Columbus, Jersey, where do they come in? Nobody really knows, but it's going to be tough to make the playoffs. And then when you make the playoffs, you got to be playoff ready. You got to be ready to really compete. So that'll be the biggest challenge on Drury's plate, number one, and on the coach's plate, number two. So, I'm looking forward to seeing how it all shapes out. But, I sort of had a feeling for 3 weeks, as did you, that Gerard was getting this job. I mean, the competition was talking, and I thought the fact that he coached in the Stanley Cup Finals already once would put him over the top. Tocchet and he are pretty similar type guys, good, solid, honest guys. Both look like they're very good coaches. So this will be a great, and as I said to Gerard, there's no better coaching job than the New York Rangers.
Wow.
It's an ultimate job, it and the Toronto Maple Leafs.
Yeah, no question that it's a signature team. It is the signature team in the U.S. We got Toronto and Montreal here in Canada, but New York Rangers, man, that's a dream job for many coaches.
And when Vigneault was there his 4 years, I never got the feeling they were ever going to win anything. I really didn't, and that's not a knock on Vigneault. I'm not a huge. I like Vigneault, but I'm not a huge fan of his coaching. I think he did a good job in Vancouver, but fell a little short. But I didn't think the Rangers ever had a chance to win. I know they went to the finals with LA, but it wasn't even close for me. And this is always a situation as a coach that you want to have yourself in a team that has a chance. And Gerard even said it to me the other night. He said, it's nice to have a team with a lot of talent, and he's got a lot of talent right now.
One guy on the Rangers that I look at when I look at their roster that could benefit the most is Chris Kreider, and I only say that because if you think about Gerard and his style of play, this is pretty close to being a Gerard Gallant type of guy. He could score, he could hit, he can skate, but what Kreider can't do is show up once every 3 or 4 games.
Yep.
So.
Well,
that to me is a big project for Gerard Gallant, is taking Chris Kreider's game to another level.
And I think the one thing that Gerard brings to the table is players like to play for him, because it's not always a grind. There's common sense involved in it. Like some guys never get off the clock. Some coaches, they never get off the clock, and eventually it drives players crazy. I think Gerard lets them go off the clock every once in a while. I think it becomes a little more of a relaxed, fun atmosphere other than game time. And I think that will help a guy like Kreider, where he doesn't need somebody hounding him day and night. He doesn't. He's a veteran guy. He knows what he has to do, but sometimes you got to push him. Gerard liked Pacioretty. Gerard wanted Pacioretty in Vegas. I know that because he was assistant coach in Montreal and had him and thought that he could come in there and help them. So he's had lots of projects, and this is a great challenge, and a great opportunity. So it's pretty exciting.
The coaching carousel was kind of stuck until we heard about Gerard Gallant landing in New York, and we assume that things might pick up from here on in. I'm told, Mac, that David Quinn, former coach of the New York Rangers, was told that he is out in Seattle, and the sense is they got their guy. Now, we still think that Rod Brind'Amour is going to end up in Carolina somehow, some way, but there is a delay. No one can deny that there is no reason in the world to still sit here today and not have Rod Brind'Amour announced as the future coach on an extension. So something's going on here, Mac. And even though that, Brind'Amour may still stay in Carolina, the whole thing kind of stinks to me up until this point. And it's still that same common thread that it's not necessarily about Brind'Amour's contract, but it's others. And now we've heard Dean Schnauth, who's Brind'Amour wants and fought for to get a raise, is out the door because he can't get him that raise. And now we've got Dougie Hamilton shopping around with permission from Carolina to get a better deal than what Carolina's offered. And I'm told it's the Torrey Krug contract. That's the one they want Dougie Hamilton to sign.
Well, look, I never for 1 minute expected Rob. There was rumblings they were waiting for Brind'Amour to find out. Maybe they stalled a little bit before they hired Gerard, but I never believed for a minute that Brind'Amour would end up in New York. Not for a minute. Now, Will he end up in Seattle with Ronnie Francis? Yeah, I believe that could happen if things go really south in Carolina. If they're that dumb, if Carolina management, and when I say management, I include mostly the owner, if they're that dumb that they're going to walk on Rod Brindamore when he will take a owner team friendly contract, because, and the fact that they could lose him because they won't give a couple of assistants a raise. Are you shitting me? Are they that dumb? They think they're really smart because they've had some a little bit of success here. Now they really think they're smart. Well, I hope they're not that dumb that they lose a Brindamore over that. And I you know what? I'd love to see him end up in Seattle.
It's just his business philosophy. And it's one thing to get Brindamore to sign a contract, but it's another thing. It goes against his principles to take that money that he might be saving off of Brindamore and put it to other. He doesn't believe in contracts, service contracts for trainers or assistant coaches, Mac. He wants to kind of reinvent the system on that. And I'm just not sure. He could be a genius, Mac. He could be a genius and be able to do it. And people are watching Ron Brindamore very carefully on this, because if he does buy into the philosophy that I will take less, and he doesn't get it transferred to trainers, administration people, assistant coaches, then it's all for naught. He's really letting a lot of people down. That's what I'm hearing in the industry, that this people have so much high respect for Rod Brindamore, but to take less and still have others in the organization suffer fair market would be a big knock against Rod Brindamore's character.
Well, you know what? I guess you got to take what you think you're worth. And you know what? When you're in that situation and you're negotiating a contract, which I was on numerous occasions, and you're saying, well, is it 50? Is 50,000 in my day, is 50 or 100,000 more important than moving or being unemployed and looking for a job? And I actually gave that recommendation to a couple of head coaches this year who were in touch with me about what they should do about their contracts. And I said, well, if you want to be unemployed and put your name back out there versus going back with the team you're with and getting a fair deal, I'm not sure. I think I would work really hard to get a deal done before I'd walk out the door from a pretty good team and be scrambling. I just, there's 31 jobs in the world. Yeah. And, Brindamore to me doesn't owe it to anybody, Mac, for fair value. I call that bullshit.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong.
I call bullshit on it.
No, you're wrong. You're wrong.
Why?
Because if you sit there and you tell me I just got to do what's right for my family and that it's X amount, I can never argue that. I can never be in a position to say I'm right, you're wrong. You need to do what you need to do for your family first and foremost. But when Rod Brindamore now has put it upon himself to sit there and go, I want these people looked after, and if I'm going to take less, it's going to have to be for a meaning, then you got to follow through. All I'm saying, Mac, is he can't take less and then not have that transferred around to other people in the organization. Then that really sucks.
I don't know if that's really what's been said. I've never seen that. I've heard Mac, it said by some media people, but I've never heard it said by him.
Mac, I'm telling you, that's what's going on right now, is that Brindamore has no problem taking a little less off his market value, but it has to go to good people in our organization, and it's not. It's not. So, people are leaving.
So Rod Brindamore's telling the owner to take the extra $1 million I should get and divvy it up. Well,
yes, to a certain extent, yes.
And if I'm the owner, you know what I'm saying? I'm saying, like, I will negotiate a fair extension for everybody else, but I'm not guaranteeing you I'm taking your extra $1 million. That I'm not. I'm. You got. I mean, look. I don't.
Is that the delay then? Is that why we haven't heard of an extension yet for Rod Brindamore?
I bet you that it's every bit as much as, do I really want to leave Carolina and go to Seattle? Do I really want to leave Carolina and go to New York?
Well, he'd be
That's
closer
probably
to
what it is more than anything.
he'd be closer to his parents. He's got
Mhm.
family that would be what, a couple hours away, and you know, we'll wait and
Yeah.
see. But the sense is, if it's Rick Tocchet's job, if in fact Seattle can't get Brindamore, and I got to think that's still, to a certain extent, even with Gerard gone to New York, that still seems to be playing into the delay a little bit.
Are you not a little bit shocked that the only two people really interviewed for the New York Ranger job were Gerard Gallant and Rick Tocchet?
And Dave
Like with
Quinn.
all, for the Ranger job.
Oh, for the Ranger job. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Sorry.
That those two guys were in, that's it, that had in-person interviews for this job, if in fact it wasn't in person. I mean, so
Well,
obviously
not interested
jury,
they weren't interested in Babcock. They were not
right,
interested in bringing back Tortorella. So who's
or
left?
Boudreaux,
Or Boudreaux. Not interested in
So
Boudreaux.
those were the five names that were out there, and it's sort of it amazes me that all of a sudden these big guys that were the biggest names in the game 2 years ago, 3 years ago, 4 years ago, 5 years ago can't even get an interview for the Ranger job. That's how far they've fallen. Anyway, it's great for Tocchet and Gerard that they get these jobs. So
Yeah,
good on
I
them.
got to think
Good on them.
it's all pointing to Rick Tocchet in Seattle at
And
this point.
I like a Tocchet Ron Francis combination. I really do. Um, I think that they would be a good combination. I think they probably are on the same wavelength. I think it's unbelievably lucky of Rick Tocchet to get the hell out of that mess he was in Arizona and get to finally to a team that should be as well a run team as there is in the NHL with Ronnie at the helm. So I think it'd be a huge break for Talk, and I hope he gets the job.
Well, we'll watch that in the next hours or days, but seems to be itching towards Rick Tocchet. Dave Quinn, I think, was told that they've made their decision, and unfortunately, he didn't get the job. So you got to think that we're going to hear something rather quickly here. Okay, throw it over to the conference final. We talked about game one, Tampa Bay and the Islanders. I had suggested that the Tampa Bay, the only mistake they made in game one was not showing enough respect to the New York Islanders. And in game two, I thought they showed a lot of respect to the Islanders because they weren't about to cough up the puck in the neutral zone like they did in game one.
Yeah, I was blown away by how well the Islanders forechecked in game one and really didn't allow Tampa to get it going, to get it. So when you can't get the puck going at your own end, you have a hard time playing the skill game and the speed game that Tampa want to play. And you know what? They got the puck going. So there's two ways to get the puck going. Number one, you have great positioning on your breakout. Number two, you wheel the puck. In other words, when it comes back and the D get it, they're in motion and they're wheeling the puck. And when you're wheeling the puck, you back your opposition off. So I thought Hedman, Sergachev, even McDonough took the ice that was there and started wheeling the puck a little more and then dishing off and making the plays. The other thing they did was they made some stretch passes in the neutral zone, and it really opened up the neutral zone. And they got a few breaks off it, a couple of goals scored off it. So I thought it started with their breakouts much better. The Islanders played well. The Islanders had a good, solid first period, but I didn't think they were in control nearly as much as they were. And I thought Tampa Bay adjusted and made some good basic adjustments to help them play a better game. And not to mention Vasilevsky stood in his head still, which is what you need every night in the playoffs.
Couple of breaks that we saw in the hockey game included a too many men on the ice on the Palat goal, Mac. And then, of course, the missed call on the cross check. That point goes into Varlamov. I just don't know, between four guys, Mac, on the ice, and how you can miss both these incidents.
Especially when they could have had a big bearing on the game. I mean, obviously the missed call and point, when you got four guys looking at the net, in all
Where is the
likelihood.
convert? Like, where is somebody to sit there and go, no, you can't call this.
Yeah, that call really bothered me. And luckily it didn't throw the Lightning off. Point goes into the penalty box. And what does Point do? What he gets his 9th goal in his last 10 playoff games or something crazy.
Phenomenal.
So he's too much of a pro, and they're too much of a pro group to throw it off. By the same token, the Islanders, too many men on the ice. It didn't affect the play at all. It didn't affect the goal, but it still is wrong.
Lazy.
It was too many men on the ice, blatant and Trotzy, and then they lost it. Did that affect their game afterward? I don't think so. I think they're pro enough to shake that up. But 2 calls that could have had amazing impact on the outcome of this hockey game. I mean, you always look back at those calls, but the best way to do it is you shake it up. But I'm telling you what, when you're on the bench and you're in the heat of the battle, it's damn hard to shake those calls off. It pisses you off so much that blatant calls are missed like that it drives you crazy.
And the play Kucherov made, which looked like a 1-on-3 with Barzal coming in to cut him off as well. And I felt sorry for Barzal. You can look at the video and say, hey, maybe you should have angled him a little differently, or you got caught flat-footed. But I mean, the shimmy that he put on all of them to set up a lot was all world class again by Kucherov.
Well, that was all world class to set them up with the great play and the great shift of body weight and making that play. But what about the one-touch pass behind the net that he gave to Point in the slot and Point? Who better in the game today than Point in the slot? Whether it's a quick release or it's an extra move and go upstairs. I mean, we've seen 2 of them in the last couple of games, but what about the pass? So you got that pass. You got the shift move on Barzal and whoever else. I mean, it was an unbelievable performance by Kucherov with 3 amazing plays. Even the one to Hedman on the power play was a spectacular pass. So 3 big plays by your superstar, big goal by your go-to centerman and franchise player, and a go-to game by Vasilevsky in goal. I mean, the save he made when the score was 2-1, a couple of big saves, 3-1, couple of big saves.
The stretch glove save.
Oh, unbelievable. And I think it was Palmieri, wasn't it? Or Palmieri or Sajak?
Palmieri, I believe.
So it was a good performance. The fourth line battles, like you talk about the scrums and the face washes and the punches in the head. How many did we see? It terminating with the end of the game where we had a good little battle going on there. But the fourth line, the 2 ugly fourth lines that may be as good as any fourth lines in the league, the way they battled all night long with Clutterbuck, Martin, Cizikas, and then you throw out that fourth line and it is ugly. Third and fourth lines of Tampa battled that fourth line all night long.
I think it's a good sign for the Islanders that you could almost leave a little disappointed on your effort or your result in game 2, but still go home on a split to go back to your hometown fans, tied 1-1 against the defending Cup champions. That's pretty good place for Barry Trotz right now.
Well, you go in there hoping you're going to get a split, and then you got control. You control your own destiny with your home ice, and Nassau is not an easy place to play right now. So that's a real plus. The thing that concerns me is Pajot. Where is he? It looked like he reached on that one play, and it was at the second period where it looked like he may have pulled his groin and he hobbled off the ice. Didn't play a whole lot after that. That matchup is critical. His line against the big line is critical. So Pajot has become such an important player. Is he going to be all right to play? Trotzy sort of indicated he might be, but that's a real question mark for me.
He's as valuable to them as anybody. When I go into the conference final, I'm like, okay, who's shaping up to be a potential Conn Smythe kind of guy in the running? I had him in the list.
Oh, I mean, he's been that good. I mean,
he has been that
listen,
good.
I thought he was a good player with the Ottawa. And when I saw what Lou paid for him and then re-signed him, I thought, Lou, what are you thinking? And then all of a sudden to watch how this guy has performed, again, a brilliant move by Lou Lamoriello, paying a price, picking this guy up. And all of a sudden, he gives them a whole different look because he plays the almost perfect 200-foot game, this guy. They rave about his positional play. He's never at a position, and he can also score, and he can win faceoffs. I mean, so talk about a valuable guy. So what's his health status? You know what the groin's like. It can be an aggravating situation. So I'm hoping he's going to be okay.
Tonight, 8 p.m., Golden Knights and the Montreal Canadiens. Didn't really get your thoughts yet on what we were able to see in game one. I would assume, Mac, before we even get into that, tonight, though, you hate to say after one game, a must win, but can we envision the Montreal Canadiens losing tonight and still finding a way to beat this team 4 out of 5? It is a must win.
It is a must win. And look, I thought the first period they could have been up a couple of goals, and Fleury made a couple of great saves on slot chances, great plays. So I thought Montreal committed the first period. I'm thinking, okay, they're in there. They're getting their chances. They're playing pretty quick. They're moving the puck. They're being a little bit physical. And then it ended. It was over. The second and third period to me was a nothing second and third because it was taken over. Petrie is a critical element here. I mean, like Sherratt and Weber, Edmonston. It's 25 minutes for the two big guys, and Edmondson comes in at, I think, around 22 minutes. That's a hard, and I mean a hard 25 minutes because a physical toll takes on you. The banging by this forechecking group, and they keep coming at you. So if you think they're not going to keep it coming, you better figure out real fast how you're getting the puck out of your own zone in a hurry so you don't take that beating. And take your chances that you get it up ice and your power play can maybe get you a goal or two. But right now, goaltending, Price was good. I thought Price was good. I thought Fleury was maybe a touch better. But Fleury's still a star for me in that game. And yet, as well as Vegas played, Fleury still had to make some 10 bellers to win.
Some still suggesting to me he's dealing with a cracked knuckle. But regardless of what it is, Mac, do you take him at a 40 or 50% when it comes to shooting the puck or handling the puck and take his skating, or do you go with a healthier body overall? But hard to imagine winning without Petrie.
Yeah, they got when you lose really essentially your number two guy, which is really what he is on their back end, and a lot of nights he's their number one guy. It can affect you dramatically. They got to get him in there. If he's, I mean, look, if he can pass the puck, if he can move the puck, to me, I'd take him in a heartbeat. Because Kulak, I'll give him credit. Kulak battled his ass off, but he's a 5. He's got to be in the 5-6 hole. That's where he's got to be.
Some nights he can't play.
Well, yeah, I mean, and if he can't, 5-6, you don't mind him there, because he moves the puck and he's a battler. But
struggled. I thought he really struggled.
It's really tough, and he's playing his offside sometimes. Romanoff's still a rookie. I mean, if they don't have Petrie, I just don't see it happening for them.
Coming off of the last series, Gallagher made an interesting observation. He said, once we go up, it's almost a feeling like it's enough. And you just spoke moments ago about not capitalizing in the first 7 to 10 minutes for Montreal. Maybe that had something to do with Vegas being god awful. I mean, they got off to a horrible start. They could not get any skating or forechecking going. But once they settled in, Mac, that's when I thought Montreal was in a heck of a lot of trouble. But I don't think that there's a team in the league, even today, I include all of them, that need to score the first goal more than the Montreal Canadiens. The Islanders, to me, I still have a lot of confidence that at 2-0 that they're not out of the game. And we saw that against the Boston Bruins. That
Right.
2-0 could end up 2-2 real quick with the New York Islanders. You don't get that sense with the Montreal Canadiens. That's how important the first goal is to this team going into tonight.
And you know what? Everybody talked, well, Dano was great. He was a key against Toronto and never got a point. Well, I'm sorry. He needs to get some points. He's a great shutdown guy, but he's on a big line with Gallagher. He's got to get some points. He's got to put up the odd point for you besides doing what he's doing. Your fourth line with Stahl and Perry have got 20 points in the playoffs. I mean, how long can you count on Stahl and Perry and company, Armia, to carry your team offensively with 20 points? You know, I know a lot of them came on the power play, but still, I mean, you've got to get something out of your other people in your lineup. Toffoli's done a decent job. Anderson hasn't scored in, 11 games now?
Yeah.
I thought Josh battled hard and took the puck to the net on a couple of occasions. Maybe could have scored. Josh Anderson's got to score. Suzuki, Kokanemi, kids, they got to contribute if they're going to. If they're going to have any chance in this series.
Still, though, you look down Vegas's lineup, and 6 of them, I think, are close to $5 million and more, and that's so much firepower. And Alex Tuch, to me, stands out every time you see him, and you got to go down the lineup a little bit to find him in the third hole, but that's how you win championships, when you got a guy like Alex Tuch playing underneath the likes of William Karlsson and Riley Smith and Marcia So and Pacioretty and Stone.
He's been frustrated, Tuch, because he hasn't put up the numbers he
every
wants
time
to
you
put
see
up.
him, he's coming at you 1,000 miles an hour, cutting behind the net.
He's a big time player, and that's the problem when you play Vegas. Every line comes at you. Their third. It's a little bit like Tampa Bay. The third and fourth lines don't give you a break. The third and fourth lines come at you as hard, forechecking wise and physically, and even not that the skill's not there of their top 6, which I think is maybe the most dynamic. We talked this winter about their top 6 is as good as any in the NHL, maybe better than most in the NHL. But the third and fourth lines do not give you any relief because they keep coming at you and playing the same way, shift after shift. Colasar, Reeves, Carrier. They just keep coming at you. And I haven't even mentioned the third line yet, with this Tuch's line with Janmark. They're coming at you as well. So it's tough sledding out there.
It is, and what took, I think,
Roy's the other guy.
Yeah, Nicholas Waugh. And you look at the blue line, Mac, and again, it probably took them about 10 minutes, 12 minutes to kind of settle in. But then they started taking the game over, and McNabb absolutely smoked Corey Perry.
Yeah.
And if you're doing that to Corey Perry, then, what's a guy like Cole Caulfield going to feel like?
But the pressure that their offense, the pressure that their forwards put on the forecheck, the pressure they put on the cycle frees up your blue line. And we've seen the blue line with some big goals. Nick Holden, who we had in Syracuse, we signed him as a kid out of college. Nick Holden's been a good player. I don't know whether it was college or not, but we signed him in Columbus, and he's put up points. Martinez has been a star. Pietrangelo, even offensively, has contributed. So, and I haven't even mentioned who the real star on the back end was the other night, was Theodore. How good was he? How many guys you see, first of all, with the bullet shot, and secondly, with the fake pump and passing on the goal. Talk about big time plays by Theodore.
And Alex Martinez is playing like Marc-Andre Fleury.
Yeah. And we haven't even mentioned McNabb and Whitebread, who absolutely. So the blue, there's not a weakness in this team right now. There's not a weakness on this team, and it starts with their goaltender and what they think. to see the respect they have for Fleury in the net is unbelievable as a group. I don't know if I've seen as much of that anywhere where a team loves their goaltender from start to finish of a season as much as this guy.
And even factor in the relationship when it could have been a difficult one. And I think part of the reason why it has worked this long, I give full credit to Robin Lehner. And maybe, hey, at the end of the day, he looks and says, whether I play or not, I'm making my $5 million a year. I'm okay. I can still try to win a Stanley Cup, but it doesn't get this far without him being a guy that buys in.
We may have lost Mac here for a second. I'm not positive though. Yeah, his camera is off at least, so it might be.
You know what happened, eh? His business partner called him again.
No, I think it was probably someone looking to talk to him about his extended warranty. He's popping back in right now.
Is he popping back in?
Mac is back. Who was it? Was it Sally?
Who was it?
One of my insider scouts just called me.
Nice.
I can't give his name out.
But
cool. Obviously he's not watching the show, the son of a bitch.
You tell him to hit the like button? Did you tell him to press it?
If he's not watching us, he's on the outside looking in, and that makes him an outsider, not an insider.
The people that phone me, like, seriously, do they not know that I do the Real Kyper at Noon show? You know, as I was getting some, Jill just got herself a new truck here in PEI, and we were getting the insurance, and she said, "What's your job? What should I put down as your job?" I said, I think you should probably put down semi-retired.
No, lead analyst on the Real Kyper at Noon show.
I was going to say, like, director of hockey operations. No, you're just kidding.
Then I'm scared they may ask for my salary, and I wouldn't want to embarrass you.
You and Brindamore are probably at the same level. No scoop. You didn't interrupt our show for a major scoop or anything.
No, all I did is keep hitting the red button to get rid of them.
Just one more thought on Vegas's blue line. I don't know if people realized what the pickup from LA on Alec Martinez would have meant to Vegas, but I guess we found out real quick why he's a Stanley Cup champion again. He is so good. And at 33 years of age, Mac.
Well, remember how much we really liked Martinez when we were on the road? Yeah. And I was praying the game was going to be over, the series was going to be over, and Martinez scored the winner. Was it in overtime or late in the third?
It was in overtime.
Oh, my God. He's been my favorite player ever since I got to go home.
What would you pay him next year if you were a team looking to shore up a blue line?
What's Muzzin making?
Muzzin's like 5'6", which kind of screws up, I think, Morgan Riley a little bit on his extension, because I wouldn't take a penny less than Jake Muzzin if I'm Morgan Riley, and that would put Morgan over 6.
I'd want $1 million more than Jake Muzzin. I wouldn't even mention Jake's salary. I just say I deserve $1 million more than Jake. But anyway, I mean, Martinez is going to hit a home run. I mean, he's going to hit a home run. Now, does he want to stay in Vegas because of the winning, the situation with the winning? But I mean, I don't know who else they have coming up, but this guy will be one of the most sought after defensemen in the summer after Hamilton.
And would you be comfortable paying Dougie Hamilton over $7 million next year?
I'd be comfortable based on the way he's played, paying him that. And he's been great in Calgary. He's been great in Carolina. There's still the commentary about what is he really like. Jill, you're yelling. Okay. Yeah, I had to tell Jill she was yelling. She's on the phone.
I can't believe you just did that. Should we end the show there? I don't know if we're getting better than that, boys.
I think
You're the yeller. Jill's never yelled in her life compared to you.
Why do you think I said it? I was just trying to get back. You know what? I think
we should end the show on that.
I think we should, because if she gets off the phone and make it ugly.
Yeah, we can't have that on air, big guy.
Oh my God. Just when I think, you know what, you're suffering this vertigo, you're not going to be fun. Your energy's going to be down. You never let us down, Doug Maclean. Go see that coach behind you. See that coach. See the coach behind you.
Hit it.
Yeah. Go lay down on it.
First, I have to make up.
Yeah.
All right.
Settle in for the evening.
We're gonna let you go, Doug.
Thanks,
you give us
guys.
a score? Does Montreal go down 2-0 in this series, or do the 3,500 people waiting for Game 3 in Montreal have something to really cheer about?
I'm going out on a real limb, and I'm going to say Montreal win tonight, 3-2.
Wow. Good on you.
I've been wrong a lot, though.
We got to give Carey Price a game or two, so this one has to be it.
This has to be it. They know it. It has to be it.
Well, we'll see what Carey Price brings Montreal Canadian fans tonight, because Mackey's, if he can't score, he can't let any in. That's for sure.
That's right. So it'll be a fun game.
Enjoy the rest of your day. I hope you feel better.
Thank you. Appreciate it. Sorry I was a little down today, but I'm battle back.
You made
Should
up.
be better by
You were
Friday.
great, bud.
You made up for it at the end. I can. My stomach hurts from laughing so hard. Okay. Doug Maclean out of PEI. Jordan, you okay?
Yeah, you want to do a quick couple questions, or we'll let Doug go, or what are you feeling?
Yeah, Mac. We're gonna take a couple questions.
Great.
You go lie down on your couch.
Okay.
Have a great one, man. Bye.
Oh my gosh. He just he doesn't disappoint, does he?
No, Doug's the best, you know that. And
One of
Jill
the funniest
deserves
people I
nothing
know.
but our admiration, respect, and like a lesson in how to get her patience up, right? Because I don't know how she does it. Some interesting conversations in chat today throughout the show, Kip. Kind of all centering around the Brindamore stuff and the new coaching situations. But overall, I question to you, like, whose responsibility is it to have the welfare of like the community of coaches to be in someone's thoughts, right? Like, is that a Barry Trotz thing? Who should be wearing that flag to be like the leader, right?
You know, nobody ever really talked about it. And the one thing that I know for sure that in my generation is nobody spoke of salaries when I first broke into the league, Jordan. It was always speculated on who made what, but we had no knowledge as players what our comparables were. And that kept salaries down, because you would just guess, or it would be hearsay, or a coach or a general manager may lie to you and say that this guy only makes X amount. And if you want to go back to the 70s, salaries were down in Philadelphia because players like Bernie Perrant and Bob Clark were also being looked after with gifts, like extravagant gifts, where the Snyder family would be paying for, you know, things like cars and boats, is from what I was told. And then when it came to other players wanting to have Bobby Clark perhaps as a comparable, or say, I want to be close to Bobby Clark, they would always argue that his salary is low to begin with. So there was always this mistrust on salaries. And today, because we were able to publicly announce through the Players Association who made what, it was real easy to say, I'm not making a dime less than him. I overperform on him. I've got more goals, more assists. I've been in the playoffs, and teams would have nothing to argue, and it pushed our salaries right through the roof. Coaches never had that. Today, we still don't really know for sure, but we end up finding out. But the coaches aren't stupid either. If they somehow whisper a salary to somebody else, and now they've got a coaches association, it could help them. And say what you will about Babcock. You love him, you hate him, whatever the case is. He put a lot of money in everybody's pockets when he signed with the Toronto Maple Leafs for $50 million over 6 or 7 years. I don't know what the final contract was, but it was a doozy that took coaches completely to another level. And Todd McClellan, Barry Trotz, Alain Vigneault, all of them would never be making $5 million. Claude Julien, they would have never got to $5 million without Babcock's $650. So I don't think anybody owes it to anybody, but it does serve in the best interest of a healthy environment for players getting still fair market value. And there is a fair market value, even in a cap system where it's split 50-50. There is a certain priority, and coaches, there is no salary cap. So let's make that clear, that they have a true market system. They're not affected by the salary cap, which kind of doesn't make any sense. If you're an ownership group and your salaries were getting out of hand, then why wouldn't you include the coaches? But good on them for avoiding it. But I don't think it's on anybody anymore to carry that mantle of trying to save a marketplace and all of that. If it's ultimately about you and your decision and your family and what you like and what you don't like, on where you want to be, that's a preference, man. You shouldn't have to carry the weight of the world on your shoulder to keep salaries up. But in this instance, this is a really, in the Brind'Amour instance, I kind of say, well, if you're going to tell people that you want other people looked after, then you're dragging everybody into the fight here. And if you're going to fight, you fight to win. Don't tell everybody that you're fighting for your assistant coaches or your trainers and then end up giving a shitty deal and still not have them looked after. That's a lose-lose. And that's what people are watching with Rod Brind'Amour.
It's really interesting to me overall. I think you and I typically view this sort of like paradigm in the same way. Like I'm very pro player. I want good product. I want to watch good hockey. I want to watch good basketball, whatever it is. If I'm a fan of a team, I want them to win, right? So there are these two podcasters, Nate Duncan and Danny LaRue. They do the show called Dunked on NBA. It's very interesting for the hardcore NBA fan. But Danny always says this thing, and it always speaks to me, but he says, ownership is the biggest competitive advantage in pro sports today. And I see it ringing so clearly, to me at least, inside of hockey, where it's not capped. These spends aren't limited in any way. We talked about Gary Roberts last year and how he's not being employed by a team in a training capacity. And I just
Gary is now.
Okay, well, at that point, rather, right? And I just wonder why there isn't more like fan backlash towards owners who are taking this route, right? And it seems like it's more focused on a player taking too much money or potentially a coach taking too much money, where you don't hear as much owner-based backlash.
Well, yeah, that's an interesting question. I don't know how this is going to play out in Carolina. I can't even imagine the backlash if the owner, Tom Dundon, loses Brind'Amour and he just says, I've had enough, I'm going to Seattle. I don't know where it would start, but there's a bar set now in Carolina, and it wasn't met with the loss to Tampa Bay. But you can argue that they're close and they're getting closer. And now we've got Svechnikov, who's their best and greatest talent on the team, who's a restricted free agent, and he's got to get a new contract. All the fans want Dougie Hamilton back. He's been great, but where does Tom Dundon go now with these contracts? Do you try to get? He's already said no to the Torrey Krug contract, which I think is around $6.5 million. So it's clear that it has to be probably 7.5 or 8. That's what he would be looking for. Does Tom bend and say that's our best defenseman on the team? So that is one exception. And then there's Rod Brind'Amour. That may be one exception. But he doesn't want the one exceptions to leak into trainers and assistant coaches, and he doesn't want it bleeding into the organization. He has, like, he couldn't sign his TV people. John Forsland's probably one of the best play-by-play guys in America. Doesn't want to pay him any more than $60,000 a year. And it's like, geez, you know, other guys are getting $300,000-$400,000, $500,000 a year. I don't think you're going to be able to get a guy like that for $60,000 a year. But he has a philosophy and a belief, and I'm sure in many ways it's helped him become a billionaire.
Yep.
So something's working for him. I just don't know if it's going to work for him ultimately in professional sports, because that's all he's trying to do. He's trying to take a philosophy and a blueprint in business and suggest, well, why do I have to give a trainer a raise when I can go get another trainer from the East Coast Hockey League, who I bet I can convince him to do it for free because he's in the NHL, and NHL is a really cool place to play or to work. And, you know, maybe it's his dream to make the NHL, and he's going to say, okay, I'll take whatever you offer me. But there's others that say, no, that's not right.
Yeah.
And I can go somewhere else and have someone value me a lot more than you're showing me. So that's the biggest challenge in Carolina. But he's a billionaire.
Yeah.
He's done something right to put those billions of dollars in his pockets, but we'll find out soon enough if it works in the NHL.
Yeah, thanks for that. I think generally speaking, it just comes down to, hey, if you want to win at the highest level, is that going to work? And if you don't, hey, maybe it's okay. Maybe that's an all right place to be in terms of professional sports, right?
An interesting case study.
Absolutely.
Sure.
Well, thanks for that, Kyper. I think we're good for the day, bud.
All right. Well, listen, thanks for everybody for joining us. We let Doug go a little early because he is battling, in all seriousness, vertigo. Mac, I know you're not watching, but our well wishes are with you. Our thoughts are with you, and we hope you feel better. And we hope to see you Friday. And for all of you, we hope to see you Friday as well. Thanks for joining. Thanks for watching. Subscribe if you haven't, and hit the like button. Let's get it over 100 for Doug Maclean. All right.